The meeting will come to order, and Jim Day will report on the closed session meeting.
The board did meet in closed session to confer with its real property negotiator, and no action was taken.
What did he say? Agenda item number 1, the approval of the agenda.
Second.
Been moved and seconded, the agenda be approved. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Public comment on matters not on the agenda. Approval of the October the 9th, 2014 minutes.
Second.
Been moved and seconded that the minutes be approved. Those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Review monthly year-to-date revenue and expenses.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. This report summarizes revenues and expenses for the month of September 2014. The agency's fund cash position started the month at $3.8 million. No appreciable revenues were received. Expenditures amounted to $1.3 million, mostly the majority in the Southport project at $1.2 million. The Fund 257, the state fund account, still has $868,000 in it. Next month's report will show our recently received payment of $5.6 million, so our cash position will jump noticeably next month. And DWR staff is currently working on another quarter payment, and we should have that in a month or so. And we're working on the next work plan too, which would bring additional advance revenues into the state fund. So as of September 30th, with the $868,000 in the state fund account, the agency's cash position stands at $3.4 million, and that's the end of the report.
Our financial position is going to increase next month.
Quite a bit, yeah, by about $5.6 million.
Pardon?
By about $5.6 million.
Anything?
No questions.
Thank you very much. Consent agenda.
I have no changes and would move for approval of the consent agenda as presented. Do we have somebody?
I got one. Kim McDonald.
Thank you again, board members, for hearing me. I have several questions about the offer you approved to submit to me last month. Did the person who presented the offer to you explain that the riverfront property was valued at only $50,000 an acre, when non-riverfront acreage has sold in the area for over $100,000 an acre? Did he explain that after taking out the value of my well, the home was being valued at less than $70 a square foot? Did he explain that no value was given to the fact that 2 floors of my home are above levee height, and that if you go to build in Clarksburg now, your entire home living space has to be above levee height? No value was given to my location at all, and the realtor's credo, as far as I know, has always been location, location, location. At several meetings, the questions were put to Mr. Dirksen about how we homeowners were going to be treated, that we were going to be given an offer depicting the rarity and uniqueness of our property. Every time he sidestepped the answer. Instead of just saying he had no intention of doing anything more than required, he would say, "I can see what we can do, but there are rules we have to follow." Please make him from this point on answer was yes and no, and with no deception. He doesn't seem to care what's happening to us, and he thinks this is just part of his job. What does it say about Bender Rosenthal, the company that you have hired, that very few, if any, of their first offers are taken? And they are not penalized for that. Instead, they earn even more money by going to court. All I asked for was an offer that reflected the true value of my home so I could move on. I did not want to have to pay lawyers a percentage of what I'm being paid to replace my home. I had been told over and over this would be done in another 6 months, for 5 years now. The offer given to me has done nothing but make me want to be more uncooperative. I am being forced to let the idiots at Bender and Rosenthal into my home against my will, or face being called a liar about my home's square footage again. They claim the county says my home is only 4,600 square feet. The appraiser I hired went online and in 3 seconds found out that it's 6,000 plus square feet. They didn't call me at this point that there was a discrepancy Instead, they assume I lied to them. When Mr. McDonald from Bender Rosenthal presented me with this offer and we asked why there were so many things left out, he told us the information was out there and for our appraiser to go find it, and that would make the home more valuable, saying essentially they had done no due diligence at all. I have here some papers that list the comparables that Bender Rosenthal gave to us about my home, and it shows you just how much in error their offer was. So, thank you.
Thank you.
You guys have copies of this?
I'm not sure what it is that she provided to you, so I can't speak to that.
The accurate floor plan of my home.
Well, we'll just make sure we'll make sure they have the information.
Yeah.
Is there any other
Thank you, Kim.
comments? Any other speakers?
No, just the one.
Well, then I'll go back to the consent agenda item, which I will note does not concern the McDonald property, and I will move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Been moved and seconded that the consent agenda be approved. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Regular agenda, presentation of potential refinancing of West Sacramento Area Flood Control Agency, Series 2008 Assessment Revenue Bonds.
Members of the board, the city of West Sacramento typically, as a business practice, looks at our outstanding debt. We look at opportunities when we can to refinance bonds when you have a net present value savings of 3% or greater. And of course, looking at the agenda report you have in front of you, we're looking at one series of bonds, WSAFCA bonds that were issued in 2008 that have a really incredible amount of savings if we were to refund them at the present time. So we'd be looking at about 13% net present value savings from refunding. So the action that we're bringing to you today is really to give us direction to prepare the bond documents necessary to do the refinancing. But just to talk a little bit about the process, typically what we do is we pull together a finance team, and number of players on that team: bond counsel, the bond underwriter, our financial advisor. The technical term is municipal advisor. We pull all those folks together, and it takes us a couple months to get everything put together in terms of the bond documents. And then we come back to you for authorization to issue those bonds. So you're not taking that action today. We would come back to you, we thought in December, but more likely at your January meeting to get that authorization from you. One of the things we're asking you to do, though, is to select the city's municipal advisor. That's Del Rio Advisors. And Ken Deeker is here in the audience today. To select Ken to be your municipal advisor for this transaction. Now, because the WSAFCA board is a separate board from the city council, we're asking that you take an official action, just accepting Del Rio to be your advisor on the deal. And so Ken, his firm would be separate from the bond underwriter. So the bond underwriter in this case would be Piper Jaffray. And Dennis McGuire is here in the audience to represent the underwriter. Now, the underwriter brought the deal to us. The city actually has a number of underwriters now, and they bring these opportunities to our attention, and then we come to you. So Dennis is really the one that's put together the analysis that we're using, and we come back to you, I think at the December meeting, maybe with an update on where interest rates are and what the savings would be, and then finally, when we go to get your authorization to issue the refunding bonds, let's say in January, we'd have an even better idea of what interest rates would be at the time that we go to the market and actually sell bonds in the marketplace. One of the things that I'd say about this process is that, okay, this is just good business, like refinancing your house to lower your interest payments. In this case, we'd be saving money by lowering debt service payments. But it's also an opportunity to look at maybe issuing some what we call new money bonds. This would be new construction funds issued for projects that you have in the pipeline, like the Southport project or anything else that comes along. And so what we're looking at, what we're talking to your staff about is, how much money would you need for these projects in terms of the local share? And so you have a significant amount of capacity on the flood assessments to issue new debt. And so I know that they're going to come, staff's going to come back to you in December and talk about those needs, those budget needs. And then should you choose to issue new money in January, we would come back, and there's no really additional cost or process of adding new money into what is simply a refinancing. So that decision will be a future one that you make, and again, I think after some discussion in December of what your needs would be. So that's pretty much it. The agenda report's in front of you. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
How much is this going to save us?
Well, the total savings is about, using today's interest rates, which will change, about 1.7 million total savings, but then we have to discount those future dollars back. So we always talk about net present value, or the discounted savings, which would be about 1.2 million.
Any questions?
The only thing I'd say is, thanks, Paul. We've done a number of these at the city level, and they've seemed to work out really well. So, 1.2 million over a period of time, it's really not small change, and appreciate you looking at and doing the due diligence to bring this forward. And I realize this came to the council first, and then and after we thought about it a little bit, it really should have came to WSAFCA first for approval or non-approval. And anyway, one thing led to another, and this is something that I do support, so.
Well, I concur with Bill. I appreciate you guys, keeping an eye on it and bringing it to us and putting together the team. Let's go to work and get the stuff done so we can make the decision as soon as possible. So with
You need an approval for the representative. It's going to be kind of.
If you don't mind, that would be
Chairman,
good.
I would move that we direct staff to proceed with the preparation of documents necessary for the board to authorize issuance of refunding bonds and accept the city's financial advisor, Del Rio Associates, to serve as the board's municipal advisor for this transaction.
I'll second that.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you very much. It's almost like Christmas.
Not quite.
Well, let's see. Item number 7. The proclamation of West Sacramento Area Flood Control Agency honoring Kenneth A. Rusich on his retirement. I just don't understand why everybody makes a big deal out of that, but they sure do. And it's great to know that you're going to retire.
No, it's not. I wish we still had him. Well, we've got good people in his place, but at the same time, Ken's did this for a long time, and he has protected this community very, very well, and put in a lot of work, and there is a gratitude that, speaking from a flood perspective, that I have to give him, because he's done remarkable work, he and his staff. But he has assembled that staff, and he's put good people together. And so Ken's done a really, really good job. And it's not just with flood protection. Ken's done a lot of other things too, as far as Rotary and as far as girls softball and things like that. Just a good, solid citizen. And for that, I really appreciate everything that you've done.
How many meals have you hauled around? You ever keep track of that?
No.
But it's been an honor and a privilege. It really has been. As I told some people the other day, that you are indeed a gentleman. You really are. Kind of just really a good guy. And I'm going to have a proclamation I'm going to read to you. And it has to be signed by something other than a blue pen, so I'm going to kind of leave it right here, and I'm going to come down and I'll read this proclamation to you. As a matter of fact, I can do it from up here if you don't want to stand at the podium. What do you want to do? That's fine. Okay. I'll read it from up here then. Thank you, Ken. You're taking advantage of my bad knee. Proclamation of West Sacramento Area Flood Control Agency honoring Kenneth A. Rusage on his retirement. Whereas Kenneth A. Rusage has retired after 37 years of service with Reclamation District 900, 34 years as the district's general manager, and has also retired after 20 years of services as the first general manager of the West Sacramento Area Flood Control Agency. And whereas the safety and prosperity of the city and community of West Sacramento depends on protection from and the minimizing of flood risk, and whereas such protection is afforded to the community by its levee and drainage systems, the operation and maintenance of these systems requires ongoing effort, diligence, and a degree of self-sacrifice by Reclamation District 900 personnel. And whereas Ken started work with Reclamation District in February of 1977, and his efforts and diligence were of a quality befitting his progress to district superintendent in 1979 and secretariat manager in 1980, and the general manager of the West Sacramento Area Flood Control Agency in 1999, and whereas Ken guided the expansion of the district's pumping facilities from 3 plants current to the current 11 as development occurred and the community grew. And whereas Ken considered flood operations with Yolo County, coordinated flood operations with Yolo County, state and federal agencies prior to city formation. Then through the city EOC after city formation during many high water events. His diligence and service served the community through major flood events in 1983, North Levee Slip, in 1986, and whereas his knowledge and expertise of the city levee system provided project guidance from the first major levee project in 1990, the SAC Urban Improved Southport Levees, the West Sacramento Project in 1999, the North Area Early Implementation Project, and design of the Southport Sacramento River Project. And whereas Ken extended his public service to include membership on the board of the California Central Valley Flood Control Association for 20 years, Director of the North Delta Water Agency for more than 20 years, and a member of the West Sacramento Rotary for 35 years, and whereas during his tenure as a public servant and a steward of the city levee and drainage systems, Mr. Rusich made time to raise a family with his wife Liz, coach and serve on the board of directors for West Sacramento girls softball for many years, 1980s. Now therefore be it proclaimed that the West Sacramento Area Flood Control Agency does hereby honor Kenneth A. Rusich as a well-earned retirement after more than 37 years of distinguished and dedicated public service.
I'd like to add a few things, and then move on the resolution or proclamation. But you know, West Sacramento over the last few years has developed both the city and WSAFCA a reputation as being a community that knows what they're doing when it comes to flood control and trying to increase our flood protection. But that reputation predates the city or WSAFCA or anyone. It goes back to Ken and his work back when it was just the reclamation district out here trying to protect everyone. And the '86 flood, I know after that, he worked hard with the Corps. My wife was there at the time to bring the first project here, which has served us well up until Katrina. We had excellent 400-year flood protection, I guess it was considered at one point. So Ken, your work goes way back, and it's been a great benefit to the community for a long time. And you know, on behalf of all of us, we thank you for your work, and we hope you enjoy your retirement. And with that, I'd like to make the motion that we approve and present this proclamation to Mr. Rusich.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we present this proclamation to Kenneth, to you, and all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. And we'll get this signed and appropriately framed and get it to you in the near future. We were thinking about buying you a ticket to go to Ireland or something, you know, but
We already did it.
we didn't do it. Okay. Flood Protection Progress Report.
Thank you, President Dent and members of the board. On the finance section, just wanted to reiterate what Mark Zolo had pointed out earlier during his financial update. We did receive payments from the state from true-up in advance funding to the tune of about $6 million. About $5.6 million will be reimbursement as available cash. We also received payments from the state for about $300,000. So in the next financial report, you should see about an increase of about $6 million in revenue from the state. On the Southport project, on the environmental documents, the revised admin final environmental impact statement was submitted to the Corps on October 31st. That is expected to complete that process and result in a final environmental impact statement that will then be sent on to division for processing. That will not occur until the biological opinions are issued from the services, and also the programmatic agreement finalized with State Historical Preservation Office, which is, we anticipate somewhere around January, February timeframe. So we anticipate that that package will go to a division for review and hopefully concurrence to issue public release of the final EIS for a 30-day review period. A little bit different process than we go through for CEQA. So the combined biological assessments, just as a reminder, these are both combined from the Southport project and the GRR. We are nearing the completion of the draft biological opinions by both services. We're expecting those by the end of the month. And we anticipate, as we work through to the final biological opinions, should occur sometime in January. On surveying services, HDR had provided some final design work based on the conclusion of some evaluations done in segments of part of the levee project. That line work was submitted to staff, and we forwarded to Mark Thomas and Company to develop revised plats and legal descriptions in support of the appraisal process. That did result in some areas that changed slightly, but the line work has moved back to require a little less property. But that did result in some changes to appraisals, and plats and legal descriptions have to be some of them have to be revised as we continue the property acquisition process. So it does not result in any changes to appraisals that have, or negotiations that are currently taking place. So, but will affect some of the future ones. So the environmental services in support of the real estate process, we've received a number of Phase 1 reports from SCS engineers. A meeting is being scheduled with our consultant team to discuss a path forward, to see how those evaluations and those Phase 1 reports, how they influence the design process, and the plans and specifications that our consultant is finalizing. So the state funding agreement. Staff and our consultant team submitted a revised scope and budget for the proposed modifications to both the current design and construction funding agreements under their early implementation program to support the Southport project. We're actively working with DWR as they review that material in support of developing their decision memo and ultimately the revised construction funding agreement to support the Southport project.
Expected, it's been ongoing, I know, but.
It is, and it's a little, they have quite the review and approval process that it has to go through, something on the order of 5 to 6 levels of review and approval. We're probably looking at January, February timeframe before we're able to get that process complete. On the GRR, we've been speaking with the leadership team over at the Corps, and it appears that despite messaging that we've heard from the Corps that they will complete the GR with existing funds, they anticipate that there will be a need for some additional funds. They are working on what that estimate is. Preliminary estimates place that somewhere on the order of about $600,000 for the Corps to carry the GRR through Chief's report towards the fall of 2015. That is cost shared 50-50 with the non-federal sponsor, which we share equally with the state. If it turns out that $600,000 is what is required to complete the project, it means about $150,000 increase to WSAFCA. And I will be able to report more on that as the Corps completes their analysis. The Sac Bank project, the contractor began the degrade of the old levee in late October. That work is expected to continue through the end of the month and potentially into the first part of December. And so final construction, including the last bit of paving to connect to where they left off to the remnant South River Road, should be completed by the end of the year. And as a note, by the way, the Mike McGowan Bridge that terminates on the south side of the barge canal is expected to open around December 5th. And it's likely that the core project will not be complete at that time. On public relations, as the board is aware, last month we celebrated California Flood Preparedness Week with a number of activities. Staff focused on partnerships with the Washington Unified School District to reach out to children and families throughout West Sacramento. Crocker and Crocker organized and executed a news conference that was held on October 21st, kicking off the week, and that conference was held at Westmore Oaks Elementary School. And Councilmember Chris Ledesma was joined by representatives from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and DWR to talk about the importance of being flood prepared with this year's motto of plan, pack, and protect. In addition to those representatives, FEMA, the National Weather Service, and California OES were also there in support and to answer any questions. The news conference also kicked off the second annual poster contest for the elementary school students of the district. We anticipate bringing winners of that poster contest back to the board to honor them at the December meeting. A flood preparedness bill insert went into the utility bills beginning October 15th, and as it runs through its cycles, that'll continue through the end of November. And we're also finalizing a fall newsletter that will go out to residents and businesses in the community sometime this month. And then lastly, just wanted to let the board know that West Sacramento's preseason coordination meeting for flood preparedness is scheduled for next Monday, the 17th of November. And that concludes my report. Be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Informational items.
We do have one informational item to report, and I'd like to ask Paul Dirksen to brief the board.
So this is to bring to your awareness a deal that we set up in February of this year to purchase a property, getting some bad feedback, for borrow material. So there was a property south of the city that we had asked you to authorize us to enter into an option agreement, and included 3 payments. The first payment was due for the first 6 months. The second payment was due for the next 3 months. And we are now in a position to close in that deal. We've had the treasurer draft the check and leave that in escrow. We've advised the property owner that this is something that we want to close on. The real estate team and part of the borrow group has been meeting diligently for months. And we've come to the opinion that this is in the WSAFCA's best interest to close on this property and to be able to use some of this material for the large setback levy that we're going to be building over the next few years. So that's the informational item. So we're just trying to hold to the contract. It is 9 months to the day, pretty much, from the second Thursday of the month. The full transactional cost is $1 million plus closing fees. This is something, like I said, you authorized in February, and just wanted to make sure that you're aware of that transaction. Are there any questions?
Mr. Chair, I have a quick comment. Ed, over here to my right, he's leaving WSAFCA. And I just wanted to thank him for his service. And, I mean, he's been on it as long as I have. And I really appreciate the guidance and the comments and things that you have made because you have a tremendous amount of experience, and I certainly, for one, really respect your opinions and the way you've handled yourself being on this board of directors. And so I just wanted to go ahead and thank you, and I wish you all the best. I'm sure things will go very well for you, and I just wanted to thank you. One question I do have, and that is, with the appraisal systems that we're going through, I just want to make sure that we're really getting things right. It was sort of alarming to have Ms. McDonald come up and just talk about how something so mundane as the amount of square footage could be so far off. And I'm trying to get a handle on how those kinds of things can happen, unless I'm missing something. And I mean, I may be. I read or looking, at least looking through the stuff that she's given us, and it seems like hers is correct compared to what our assessing team has said. And I just want to make sure that we get those kinds of things corrected, because if we can correct these kinds of things prior to them becoming an issue, it just raises the comfort level of everybody. And so I will be talking with staff to see, okay, where did something go wrong, if it went wrong? And I don't know if it did, but where did something go wrong with not only this, but maybe other items too? And so just wanted to alert staff that I'll be knocking on the door, or at least asking some questions. Okay?
I will read it diligently. Anything else?
No? No, sir.
Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We're adjourned.